Are we filming? Yes, we are. So this is a new departure from what I normally do as a video, because this is a Q&A, a question and answer session. I might have this one as the well, I'm hoping to do more. So can I ask you to do something? I'm going to pick some questions at random from the comments that people have kindly left over the last few weeks and months, and I'm going to, if you want a specific question asked, I'd appreciate it if you left a comment. Leave your question in the comments of this video, and then they may appear in my next Q&A. So that's how I'm going to do it. But I'm also going to pick other questions at random. But the questions in these comments right here in this description will write. I'm going to notice them. So there we go. So first question. Do I use A5? I do have some A5s, but generally, no, I don't use the A5. I use A4, and I use personal size, and I use the mini size, but I do not, certainly I have some in my collection, but as a working tool, I do not use A5, and I do not use pocket size. Amiga watches make a Filofax style binder called an Amiga, not an Amiga, an Agenda. And the question is, are they made in Switzerland? No, they're not. Amiga watches are based in Switzerland, but the actual leather accessories, in this case the Amiga Agenda, certainly my one says made in England, finest leather, made in England. So they got some sort of outlet, or some sort of they probably contract out to a specialist leather goods manufacturer and then stamp the Amiga name on. I could be wrong. It could be a dedicated setup, just making items for Amiga watches, the Swiss company here in the UK. But the answer is I don't know. Next question. So, just going back to my EDC again. So the questioner asks, and they're referring to the form factor of this, who would be the target audience for a Filofax as small as this? Now, as you probably know, so this is an A7. This is A7 paper. And this is my mini size Filofax, which is ever so slightly smaller than a standard. I mean, I'm mixing my. Okay, so on the let me put them together here. So on one side you have a Filofax Portland, which is similar to most mini Filofaxes, and on this side you have the mini extra slim. So it is roughly the same size but slightly smaller, because you don't have the pen loop and the fastener. So who would this be? Well, I would say anyone that wants an A7 booklet, and if they want a repositionable notebook, this is ideal. It's not something that you can buy from Filofax at the moment. They only did this model for a very, very short run. But there are other manufacturers that do offer a very, very the one I'm talking about is the Plotter Mini 5, which is extremely high end. But it's very, very. It's. You can get it in Japan. You can get it in America. There's a division of Plotter in the USA, as it were, maybe a franchise. I don't know exactly, but you cannot, for the love of money, get them here without extreme difficulties. So there's definitely a market for people that want something this small. In fact, I mean, I'm not the only person that loves this. In fact, I was so worried about what would happen if I lost this or something. I've already got a brand new one, well, a mint condition one that appears to be a boxed, unused one, ready on my shelf, so that if in an emergency, if anything happened to this one, then I could break out the other one. And as soon as something happens to that one, then I will have to hunt around for another. So I'm actually hunting around for another. I'm not trying to buy all these up, but it's just a useful. It's for me, it's the most useful form factor. So I can't be the only person that wants a small Filofax in A7 size with repositionable pages. I genuinely think, and if anyone from Filofax is listening to this or watching it, I think you should reintroduce something similar, because I think they would sell like hot cakes. Next question. Okay, so the question is, I have sold Filofaxes on eBay using English auctions and Dutch auctions. And the question is, from a English auction perspective, where I start an auction at 1 penny, have I ever made a loss because it has sold for 1 penny? And the answer is no, not for a Filofax, but yes, for an antique vase, which sold for 1 penny. And how do I feel about how do I feel about that? Well, how do I feel? I'm not agonising over it. I'm not pacing up and down, wondering what could have been, wondering whether if only I could have turned the clock back and sold it as a Dutch auction instead of a English auction. A Dutch auction is where you start at a ridiculously high price and then work your way down until effectively someone puts their hands up, metaphorically speaking. It doesn't happen very often. I do like the sort of excitement of being a buyer and seller at auction. I have been doing this both online and with bricks and mortar auctions here in the UK since I was a teenager, and I'm now in my 60s, so that's a long time. How did that time pass? Anyway, so what I see it as just an occupational hazard, in the same way, I suppose, as if I had a store and I haven't had an antique shop, but I have rented space in several antique shops here in the UK, and there is you have to take a loss sometimes because of theft. You know, there's always people who want what you have and they don't want to pay for it. So this is part of the cost of doing business. And so having a surprise result, i.e. if I sold a Filofax for 1 penny and it only sold for 1 penny, then I just want to spread the joy. So if a buyer gets a fantastic bargain like that, then that is a great thing, isn't it? And I will revel in their time, not mine. Next question. There's a card slot. Someone was asking about the extra wide card slot in some older Filofaxes. And it is for, as I understand it, because they fit a floppy disk. We're all remembering floppy disks. So up until maybe 20 years ago, a lot of Filofaxes had space for a floppy disk. So that is, in my opinion, what that extra wide slot is for. You quite often get several card slots, and then you get an extra wide slot to carry a floppy disk. Next question. So I I put a Filofax in a plastic bag, soaked it in Nivea face cream, and left it in a warm cupboard, my airing cupboard at home, for a year. Now, did I have a mesh bag? Or was it a bag that was sealed tight? Well, it was a bag it was a Ziploc bag, and I did seal it tight, but I didn't leave it there for a whole year. I periodically inspected it, maybe every 2 or 3 weeks, took it out, added a little bit of Nivea now and again, so just to see how it was going, that it wasn't going mouldy or anything. So the answer is yes, and I took it out occasionally, so it wasn't hermetically sealed all the time. Next question. So, do I clean my Filofaxes? And if so, how do I do it? Right, so two methods. So, if I have a predominantly vintage binder, although there are some, like I recently had a Mulberry, and I've actually done a video on a Mulberry where I videoed myself cleaning it with saddle soap. So that is what I use on a leather product, saddle soaps. But if I have something that is ostensibly leather, but let's not kid ourselves here, because this Filofax Portland is not leather all the way through. It is a thin layer of leather. Looks nice, but it is a leather that is bonded onto a man-made material, a man-made substrate. So what would I do with this? Because if as far as cleaning it is concerned, you could use saddle soap, but to be honest, I just use a damp cloth, a damp tissue with some water, and just wipe it down. Just occasionally, I will I will use a baby wipe, like I don't know what is in baby wipes, but it's it is like it's almost like a mild alcohol solution, I believe. But that's what I do. I haven't caught anything from handling Filofaxes. So I mean, I buy and sell Filofaxes, and when I sell them, I make sure they're clean. When I get them, I clean them, but I don't do anything too drastic. I'm sure if you look at Filofaxes under a microscope, there'll be, it would be a horror story, because leather is you wouldn't want to eat your dinner off a piece of leather, would you? But from a point of view of cleanliness, I think I take reasonable precautions. And in fact, during the COVID crisis, I had a rule that I would look at the postmark, and I wouldn't open it for a week after the postmark date. But it's you can't be too paranoid about this sort of thing. Okay. Next question. Do I archive my inserts, say a diary, for instance? The answer is yes. And the question is, how do I do it? Presumably, what do I use to store them in? Well, for me, I just use another Filofax, because it gives me a reason to have more Filofaxes. And as we know, you cannot have too many Filofaxes. Next question. So, someone's asking, what do I keep in an indexed Filofax. Passwords, account numbers, particularly telephone numbers. So if I have a problem with my electricity company or my gas supplier, it's handy to have telephone numbers. I also keep like if I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example that's something that's fairly nondescript but could be useful in an index folder like this. I got a deal on my mobile phone where they gave me an extra deal, and I said, am I going to get the same deal next year? And they said, oh, no problem, just let them know that you spoke to so-and-so, and they'll have a look at the notes on the account and give you the same deal. Well, in the situation like that, I would jot down the deal and who I spoke to. This is a critical thing. That sometimes people will say, well, who did you speak to? That's not normal. That's not a normal. That giveaway is not normal, or that discount is not normal. Who did you speak to? So when it comes to things like that, it's very, very handy to keep them in a Filofax. So each page or each collection of pages has some use with regards to recalling specific information. Could be quite random, but essentially this Filofax will contain phone numbers, addresses, passwords, account numbers, etc. I'm not too worried about it being lost. Obviously, it'd be a pain if it's lost, but it's duplicated elsewhere at another address and in the cloud, and it's all in code. So if there was, if I did have a burglary, it'd be difficult for them to discern, to derive any useful information from that. So there we go. Next question. So, am I going to do more cleaning videos? Probably. I hadn't thought of it. It's not something that I'm. This isn't like an ASMR channel. But I do know some people like that. So who knows? Who knows? I'm trying to do as many videos as possible, and so the cleaning thing has been squeezed out a little bit. I have done at least one, I think maybe another, certainly last year, so I will add those to the list. They're on the back burner anyway, so we will see. Okay, question is, what was the outcome of my great eBay experiment? Now, just to recap, the eBay experiment was where I had two Filofax jotters in identical condition, and I decided to sell one as a pseudo Dutch auction where I started at a fixed price, very high price, and dropped it every Saturday until it sold. And then after that I think it made £145. I'll start it at 300 and it sold for £145. It's one of the rarest things that Filofax have made, and this was not only rare, but mint condition, so even rarer. And what made it even rarer still, it was made specifically by Filofax for Hermes, who are, as you're probably aware, a very, very high-end boutique operation. So there was some cachet with this pair of jotters, and the English auction, the traditional auction, I think went for £46. So the winner of the English auction got one of the bargains of the year, in my opinion. So that was the outcome. So the outcome was that as a seller, it's better to sell as a fixed price item, which you can periodically reduce until a buyer is found. And as a buyer, it's certainly from this one isolated example, it's better to buy as an auction. So there we go. Interesting. I certainly enjoyed it. Anyway, I was very happy. I had a hunch. I had a hunch that the fixed price auction would be, the fixed price would be much higher than the auction price. But you know, we'll see. I'm going to, over the coming year, I'm going to, this, as I record this, I don't actually have any filofaxes for sale at the moment. But when you watch this, then I might do, and you can find out by clicking my affiliate link at the bottom and seeing if I've got anything for sale. There we go. Okay, the question is, have I heard of Microfile, and have I owned one? The answer is yes, I have, and no, I haven't. I do collect filofaxes that are made not by Filofax, and Microfile is on my list, but from what I've seen, some of them are really, really good quality, made at a time when quality filofaxes were made by all sorts of companies, large and small. In fact, I've recently, I can't remember the name of it, but I've bought one that was made in Birmingham, and that's extremely rare and sensational quality, which will be the subject of a review soon. But as far as Microfile is concerned, yes, it's on my list of acquisitions. So we will see, and then I will do a review and let you guys know what I think. Okay, next question. Why was using a Filofax Slim, I think they mean Slimline, Filofax Slimline as a diary not an option? Less weight, not as bulky. I use that and it works quite good. Okay, so as far as a diary is concerned, I am in a let me elaborate on that, because there may be people out there wondering why. They're thinking, what is Neil doing? He's got a diary in his EDC. He's got a diary in his 4-ring Filofax. He's got a diary I've got a diary in here. I've got a diary over there and a diary over there. I've also got a diary in here. So what is exactly going on? Well, you can use, as far as the Slimline is concerned, you can use a Slimline Filofax. So this is a Guildford personal Slimline. And in here right now is, let me just show you this. So let me pick a page that doesn't have any. Okay, so this is a week on 2 pages basically. And I use this particular diary for a specific purpose. I like to have each one has a specific purpose. So for instance, the diary in my EDC is largely things that I need to be reminded about when I'm out and about. This one is my diary that I use, and I have it by my computer, and it's my editing diary. So when I make a video, I am working on the recording and the editing, and then there's the uploading. So I need to know what I'm doing. I mean, this channel is my, I wouldn't say it's my pride and joy, but it's very therapeutic for me. Now I'm kind of medically retired, and I really enjoy this as a hobby. This is good. This is good for me to make these videos for you, and it's a subject that I'm very passionate about. Not just filofaxes, but paper-based productivity in general. So I have a foot in the I wouldn't say I'm a Luddite, but I have a foot in the analog world and a foot in the digital world. But I'm okay with that. So why don't I use a slimline for? I was like, well, I do. Here we go. So I don't carry this. I don't use the personal size as a diary outdoors because I don't need to know what I'm doing when I'm editing, when I'm going to the shops. But there are certain things that I do need to know, like medical appointments are in here, for instance. I'm going for an eye test tomorrow, and that is in here. So, and when I go there and they say, we need to see you about this or that, then I'll say, well, let me just check. Okay, well, I can't do that day. I can't do that. So it's very, very handy to be able to do that. And then I have a diary in here, which is also slimline. But this is in here there is a 1 month diary. But in here is a 12-month diary. And this one I sometimes take with me, but most of the time it's on my desk. So I'm using different diaries, and I have. I have more diaries than I can shake a stick at, and that works very well for me. And I'll tell you why. It's handy to have more than one diary, apart from the fact that you could easily run out of space. Now, let me just digress a little bit about diaries. If you use an online diary like Apple's calendar or the Google's calendar, you can use color coding so that you can more easily see what's going on, and indeed you can use different colors in a Filofax diary, an analog diary, to do that if you've got the real estate, if you've got the space to write all that stuff down. But what I have decided is if I'm coordinating things, then where is my other diary? Let me have a look. Okay, so here we go. So these are my 4 main diaries, although I do have 1 or 2 other ones, and I can open these on my desk and coordinate myself. I certainly need coordination, that's for sure. And so having Filofax diaries of all different types means that I can have them open at my desk and I can refer to them. But if I don't want to cloud the issue, then I can just use, if I'm editing, I don't need to check my medical appointments. I use my editing diary. So I can, the very fact that these are in separate volumes and in separate formats works very, very well for me. So that's a long-winded answer to a very short question. Okay, this is an interesting question. The viewer says, such a beautiful Filofax you have there. I bought one years ago and I keep trying to enjoy it, but it's just not comfortable. It's not a comfortable writing experience for me. My hand keeps banging into the rings as I write across the page. Surely it's not just me. No, it's not you. It's me as well. You and me. And probably hundreds and hundreds of thousands of other people. Do you know what I do? I just literally take the paper. Okay. Let me quantify this. So, if let's find a page that hasn't got anything written on it, and that's actually quite difficult. No, I've got one. Okay, so here we go. So this is a diary, and I am not going to take the pages out so that it's in my neatest handwriting, so I will just jot it down. But if I want my best handwriting, so in a journal, for instance, I will literally take the page out of the rings, put it on my desk, and then I will write, and then I will put it back. So it depends on how whether it's a sustained handwriting session. If it is, then it's, what a wonderful thing we have, this repositionable system that we have, i.e. the Filofax, so that we can do that. So generally I just put up with it. I mean, I'm left-handed, so I have problems with my hand banging into the rings. But there is another opportunity, and that is that another option is to let me just use this as an example. So this is my 4-ring Filofax, and these are some notes, some note pages. Now I could write like this, or I could have some blank paper or some squared paper and just write like this horizontally, and then I can turn it round and continue like this. So there is one, my journal, although it is not in a Filofax, it's actually in a Clairefontaine notebook. I've got a series of these. But what I will do is, instead of writing in the normal way, I will run through. So I'm starting like this, and I keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going, in a almost like Jack Kerouac when he's typing, or when he used to type. And so I just keep going and keep going and keep going. So I would say that take it out of take it out of the rings, right, put it back. That's the best bet. Okay, next question. Someone's asking about some very, very high prices that are seen for Filofaxes on eBay. Other auction sites are available. I'm pretty sure that there was one that went for over £1,000, and it was reindeer skin that had been sunk off the coast of the UK, and they brought this up. The archaeologists brought this up, and the some of that reindeer skin, which was around, I believe, around 200 years old, was used to make some limited edition, fantastic quality Filofaxes, and I'm pretty sure that one of those sold for over £1,000. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So they go for high prices. I've also seen, I'm a Filofax dealer for my sins, and I'm predominantly an antiques dealer, but I do have a like an eBay site where I'm selling Filofaxes from time to time, and I do see some sellers with arguably very, very high prices, and they just sit there and sit there and sit there for month after month and the month, and I sometimes think to myself, well, it must be costing them a fortune to list that month after month after month. What would I do? Well, I mean, I am, as an antiques dealer, or a Filofax dealer, the aim is to make a profit, just in the same way as, a baker wants to make a profit when he sells a loaf for more than the cost of the ingredients and the labour and the electricity and the staff and the insurance and the lighting and all the other things he has to pay for. So I don't see a high price as being a moral issue, because at the end of the day, who are we to suggest that like a Monet or a Goya is far too expensive at Sotheby's or Christie's when it goes for several £1,000,000. I mean, that's jolly outrageous. I mean, we have a curiosity about prices, and the thing is, if it was, I mean, let me tell you this. I mean, I don't know what it's like elsewhere, but certainly during the COVID lockdown crisis, there was a shortage of toilet rolls, and so people were buying up huge numbers of toilet rolls and then speculatively touting them for large profits on eBay and elsewhere. Well, I would say that that's wrong, because it's an essential item and you're depriving people of that essential item. Well, a filofax is not an essential item. And they are, you can live without a filofax, and there are plenty of filofaxes. And if you want a filofax, you can buy one from Filofax, or you can buy one. There's plenty of opportunity on eBay. So I don't see any moral impediment to trying for a high price, especially if your intention is especially if you're listing something for a penny in a traditional auction, you're letting the market decide how much it goes for. That's obviously very, very fair. But I also think that starting at a impossibly high price and going down, and that's the key. If you are regularly reducing the price down and down and down until it hits the point where someone wants to buy that item, then that's fair as well. And it also is fair for the seller, because it gives the seller an opportunity to make a living, and we're all here to make a living. So I don't see that, but I do see an issue behind buying something and then keeping it at a ridiculously high price for month after month after month. There was an antiques program on telly, and it was called Antiques Road Trip. So there are many of these programs on British TV. So the premise is people go round, buy something from an antique shop, and then resell it at the auction with a view to making a profit. So not doing it for their health or to make a loss, but this is the purpose of the program. So they were looking at these chairs in this shop, and they were haggling, and the guy, the prospective buyer, knew the seller, the vendor, and he said, "Well, hey Jim, well how long have you had these chairs?" And he looked at his ledger and his inventory, and he'd had them since 1980. So I saw this about 3 years ago. So he'd had these chairs for 40 years. Why did he have them for 40 years? Because he wasn't prepared to he wasn't prepared to reduce the price. He just thought he would just sit there and sit there and sit there. And, sometimes, I mean, in the antiques trade, I know that certainly bricks and mortar shops, that is very, very common. But everybody has their price. So I think that this is a long answer, but if you are selling something as a fixed price item, say on eBay, then you must have a process whereby you regularly review that price and bring it generally down and down and down. I mean, there may be seasonal variations with that. So obviously certain things cost more in the summer, or before Christmas or after Christmas, and you can ride that wave as a seller to your advantage. But personally, I think that certainly what I'm going to do this year is to sell some items for a penny start as a normal auction, and other items, probably the majority of the items, for a high price, and then work my way down. So I don't have an issue with that. I don't think there's any moral impediment to doing that. And of course, one of the things, and I'll end with this because it is actually a very important point, and that is referring to the original question about this £1,000 Filofax. That is news. That gets around social media, coffee mornings, the people looking on eBay through the sold listings. And what happens when you get something that is a high price? It boosts the market because you get people thinking, oh, I never knew that a Filofax would go for that much. I do believe somewhere I've got one knocking about in the back of a drawer or in the loft space or the garage or something. And so they will, if they hear of a high price, they will actively seek out their own Filofax and put it on the market. So a high price helps rejuvenate the marketplace, and that essentially means that those people that want a particular Filofax, maybe a particular model of vintage Filofax, or in my particular case, I like these. Now, I have noticed, since I've been eulogising over the Guildford Mini Extra Slim, I have noticed that when Guildford Mini Extra Slims come on the market, don't come on the market very often, the price has definitely risen. And the other thing, which perhaps is more extreme, is, I'll give you an example. I am a big fan of these 4-ring Filofaxes. Now, I paid £3 for this, and I was, I'm going to be told off now for hyping up the market, but it gets people to search for them and put it on the market, so there's more in the system, so that it satisfies the pent-up demand. And there is pent-up demand because there's not going to be any more of these. There's not going to be any more of these. There's not going to be any more of these, or these, or these, or these, because they are all models that are no longer made. So they're all models I like. I want to see more in the system, but crucially, for this particular one, I paid £3 plus postage. So I think in total I paid about £6.50. Yeah, £3 plus £3.50. And yet, you can, if you look on eBay now, you will probably find, I'm just guessing, that you're going to find a few of these and they're 20, 30, 40, even £50. Why? Why is it? Because I wouldn't say I'm totally responsible, but when you have a Filofax channel talking about the virtues of this amazing invention, as in the Filofax, it means that people start to think, hey, I would like one of those too. So, when I go a bundle on my Guildford Mini Extra Slim, there will be people out there who also want one of these. And so there is an inevitable penalty and subsequent bonus. The penalty is prices rise, but the bonus is that there are more of them for those that also want one. So everything has a consequence when we are talking in the public domain or buying and selling in the public domain. So that means that there will be people who will dig out that special Filofax from the back of their drawer because it used to be owned by their grandfather or their uncle, and they were a yuppie at the time, and they got this fantastic Filofax, and otherwise it might be thrown away. I mean, we've all heard of filofaxes being donated to charity shops, and obviously that's great for the buyer, but I strongly suspect that a lot of these filofaxes end up in landfill. They're actually thrown away in the trash because people don't realise how valuable or useful they are. So talking about this, actually, I think on balance is a good thing. It's not. We shouldn't be secretive about this. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, because this was a question and answer session, and it's now talking about the perception of value in the and the state of the marketplace. I never intended it to be like that, but we are pushing on for quite some time now. So I hope you enjoy this. If you have any, I've only answered half the questions I had listed, so they'll be for another day. But I hope you enjoyed this informal chat or rant or pontification about all things filofax, and I hope you found it useful as well as entertaining. Leave your questions in the comments of this particular video, and I will promise to look at them and answer as many as I can in my. There's no timetable for this. I will just perhaps do a Q&A every so often when I've got when I've got enough questions. So thank you very much. Until next time, have a good day and goodbye.